I grew up in a shooting family, a hunting family. I've represented Manitoba in the sport of biathlon and Canada Winter Games. I spent a short stint in the Canadian Armed Forces, nearly 16 years in the RCMP across Manitoba. That included uniform policing, plainclothes policing in the drug unit, where I specialized my career with the emergency response team. So obviously that deals with high-risk situations where you're dealing with armed and barricaded and all types of other violent offenses, firearms included, but not necessarily just firearms. I became a use of force instructor and a firearms instructor. So that led me to teach various police officers across the country in pistol, shotgun, rifle use, patrol carbine use, and even was guest instructor at the Canadian Police College on search warrant execution. Or was approached by my family, my parents, to take over Wolverine Supplies, and that's where it brings me to today. Wolverine Supplies is a rural business. We have approximately 18 employees, and we service Canadian sports shooters, hunters, the law enforcement and military market from coast to coast. And when we talk about C21 and the impact on our business, it's not made business a simple process. Now where our industry is dealing with the ramifications of Bill C21, the freeze on handgun transfers, in addition to the amendments that were just recently tabled and then removed. Instead of improving the firearms industry, it seems to be that we're second guessing, and I don't believe it's doing anything to enhance Canadians' public safety at this time. The government has increased the uncertainty to the businesses across the country who are forever wondering if its products will be available to sell to their customers, what will happen next, what will be prohibited, what may not be prohibited, what's changing, what do they do with inventory. In the meantime, then we have incidences like we heard of earlier, where we've got firearms being smuggled in the country, and those are the ones that are being primarily found on the streets and causing sources of our crime.
We are really trying to strike a balance here between what is important in terms of protecting victims and communities and making sure that our communities remain safe, and ensuring that Indigenous communities, hunters and farmers and Northern Canadians are not adversely materially impacted from being able to go hunting and protecting their farms, so on and so forth. In your previous testimony, you had said that you don't believe that registering firearms reduces crime. Do you believe that any type of gun legislation or registering of guns is helpful?
When did I say that registering firearms would not make Canadians safer? I don't believe I said that this morning.
In your previous testimony, 2018, your testimony in 2018, sir. Your entire quote was, "I do not believe that the registering of firearms will decrease crime. Criminals do not register their firearms. That point has been brought up in many avenues over the past while."
That's correct. We're talking about legal firearms owners here, and legal firearms who follow the laws as they're written today, the storage regulations, the transportation regulations, the safe handling and use of firearms is important, and not to be on an ever-changing scale here. We need clear and concise definitions.
Okay.
I have a few questions for Mr. Hipwell concerning AR-10s. Can you explain in brief the relation between AR-10s and AR-15s? Is it
the simplest way to explain an AR-10, it's in a larger caliber, most commonly in a .308 caliber.
The AR-10, in layman's terms, has bigger bullets than an AR-15. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you'll recall that in May 2020, the May 2020 OIC, since that time, the Liberal government has used the AR-15 as the sort of poster child of what is a military-style weapon. I think that that's universally agreed. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. But my understanding, and you can confirm this if you'd like, is that the AR-10, which is a variant, bigger bullet version of the AR-15, was used by the Yukon government. They bought a bunch of these after they were prohibited in the May 2020 OIC for their conservation officers because they were deemed as the best defense against wildlife.
Yes, that's correct.
I think Ontario also has done this for their conservation officers. Is that your understanding?
Yes, correct. Ontario is also used as a similar firearm.
So the Ontario and Yukon governments have decided that those firearms are the best defense against wildlife. Specifically in G4, in G, it says, I'm just going to read it out for the record, a firearm that is a rifle, and this is going to be prohibited. This is sort of the big issue in addition to the list. A firearm that is a rifle or shotgun that is capable of discharging centerfire ammunition in a semi-automatic manner, that is designed to accept a detachable cartridge magazine with a capacity greater than 5 cartridges of a type for which the firearm was originally designed. Can you think of any semi-automatic centerfire rifles that have a magazine that's exclusively 5 or less? Like, is that a common firearm? Basically, what I'm asking is there going to be a lot of semi-automatic centerfire rifles with magazine capability or capacity left after these are prohibited as per this definition?
Very few from my understanding, and just on that, I'm familiar with, there's a Browning Model 1900, a Ruger 44 Deerfield, and the first Browning BARs, which is a common semi-automatic hunting rifle. The Mark I would fall into that category only. Those are the only few that I am aware of.
This definition, according to your expertise, which is second generation, and you have policing expertise, you've trained others on how to use firearms, you are a firearm retailer, second generation. This definition, for all intents and purposes, bans semi-automatic centerfire rifles that have magazine capabilities.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. There's been a number thrown around by the Liberal government regarding 19,000 available firearms. The government does not know how many exist that they are banning. So I find it difficult to understand. You know firearms really well. What are your thoughts?
It's interesting that they said that there's a number left. If they can't, what's left? Are they all available? If those are all the options available for Canadian hunters, sport shooters, farmers, legitimate legal firearms owners, well, what are they? Are they all available in Canada?
Right. The 10,000 joules, my understanding is guns that are not designed to do 10,000 joules can if you put enough gunpowder in them. Is that correct? So guns that could be caught under this definition of what's prohibited may be caught just because in an extreme circumstance they could be forced to do 10,000 joules. Is that correct?
That's correct. Many other calibers could create
ones that aren't listed yet. Yeah,
correct.
Ones that aren't listed. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, thank you very much, Mr. Hipwell.
How many types of firearms in your inventory would be banned by the changes?
If we go back to the order in council, starting there, we're talking about quantity-wise, hundreds of firearms in total, and many different models across the board. The government said at the time, well, you can dispose of them. Well, there's a lot of other complications with that. Once they're imported into a country, they can't be just simply exported back to the originating country. There's a lot of other rules that the government obviously overlooked and felt that was simple to pass on to the businesses.
Mr. Hipwell, if you lose tens or hundreds of firearms and then therefore hundreds of clients, and since you're a firearms dealer, when we talk about controlling semi-automatic and assault weapons, would it be a great cost for you since that's your business after all?
A business. We're talking about...
Mais est-ce que vous n'êtes pas en conflit d'intérêt?
Are you not in a position of conflict of interest?
Simple firearms legislation that works for the firearms owners, the retailers, the industry, the manufacturers, the importers, and the government, and in turn will enhance Canadians' public safety. That's where I believe we feel the government has fallen short. So to think, sir, that I am in a conflict of interest, no, I'm here representing many hundreds and thousands of Canadians.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Merci, Monsieur Boulouris.
Thank you very
Am I in a position of conflict of interest?
When we talk about banning some firearm types that are part of your inventory, so you have a financial interest in having the least controls possible.
I'll do my best because I do not feel I'm in this is a conflict of interest here. I am here to speak on behalf of all firearms owners, firearms retailers about the classifications and the proposed legislation here. Yes, just because my business sells those types of firearms, I'm not the only business field that sells those types of firearms. And I believe that if the government was more open to working with the industry, this legislation and the firearms community would be much further ahead. However, the firearms industry and community seems to be blacklisted. It's been a challenge for organizations to work with the government in order to come with common sense, simple firearms legislation that works for the firearms owners, the retailers, the industry, the manufacturers, the importers, and the government, and in turn will enhance Canadians' public safety. That's where I believe we feel the government has fallen short. So to think, sir, that I am in a conflict of interest, no, I'm here representing many hundreds and thousands of Canadians.
I think that Mr. Villarreal is making a pretty significant accusation. Perhaps he can clarify if he's suggesting that small businesses impacted by the four bans brought forward by this government, that those businesses do not deserve to be consulted in a public way.